Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the Institute for Humane Studies, thanks for joining us for this demo today on Scholar's Edge. My name is Jean Hoffman, and I'm Director of Coalitions at the Institute for Humane Studies. And for those who are a little less familiar with what we do, we're an academic institute who partners with academics across the country who produce quality research on important topics in the liberal tradition. So our mission is to draw scholarly attention back to intellectual liberalism through civil discourse, and its principles, its critiques, as we challenge presuppositions, sharpen our ideas, and cultivate an open academic community. So we support scholars throughout their academic careers from grad school and beyond, and we offer resources, partnership opportunities, and access to a passionate and supportive community of other scholars. But in addition to resources on the individual level through our grants and fellowships, we also develop resources that we want to provide to our entire academic network so they can use it in scalable ways and get access to resources they might not necessarily have at their own institute. So this is going to be something that we're demoing today, our product, Scholar's Edge. So for this demo, some of you may have seen a demo of this before. Every time I go to one of these events and see the demo, I'm learning something new about this platform because we're building something every day. And by we, I mean our great IT team led by Jim Ronyak. So I'm excited to see what's in this, and I hope you guys find it very useful. But before we dive into that demo, I just want to go over two housekeeping items with you. One is we'll go through the demo and presentation, and then the Q&A will be after that. So we'll address your questions then, but you could submit your questions at any time. So if you look at the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you can ask questions there, and you don't have to wait for the end to ask them. So feel free to ask the questions while they're fresh in mind as they're going through the presentation. The other is if you do not have access to Scholar's Edge and you're wondering how to get access to it, here's an email address to email the team with that or any other questions you end up having after the presentation that might occur to you later or that we don't get to during the Q&A. But with that, I'm going to turn things over to Jim Ronyak and his wonderful team. So Jim is the Managing Director of Information Technology, but as I like to say, they're the Director of Magic because when you see what these tools do, they're really impressive.
Thank you, Jean. As Jean said, my name is Jim Ronyak, and I'm the Managing Director of Information Technology for the Institute for Humane Studies. For the last 11 months, we strive to ask ourselves the question of how do we move forward in a world that's going to be consumed by AI and other technology. Our goal and our mission at IHS is to, as Jane said, um, use classical liberal tradition to create a freer markets and a freer society. So our focus has been the democratization of all of the available information that a scholar or a partner center or someone in the liberal network could use in order to enhance their work, break down barriers, and move things faster to the marketplace. So what we have done is created multiple ways of using AI to augment our work, not replace our work, but to use AI in a way where its comparative advantage is utilized and efficient, meaning reading faster, summarizing better, and comparing things quicker than any of us possibly could. So what my team of Shane Cortland, who is our senior director of technical innovation, and Adam Alter, who is my head of engineering for Scholar's Edge, is they've prepared an inspirational moment to tell and show you three things of why this tool will change what we do. One is what did we build? Why did we build it? But what's most important in all of that is what it means for all of us to do this together and continue to collaborate. So with that being said, Shane Cortland and Adam Walter, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. Essentially, how this is going to work is I'm going to start showing my screen, showing you Scholar's Edge. And then as we go through it bit by bit, Adam will be jumping in as well, adding additional tidbits and engineering know-how in that regard. So let me share my screen, and I'm going to then ask everybody here if they can in fact see my screen, which is important. All righty. Can you see my screen?
You're good to go, Shane.
Awesome. Let's do this then. So right here is what you see as ScholarsEdge. This is a platform that we've been working on now for quite some time. Incredibly excited to show this to you. So I'm going to go through some of the functionality of it. And as Jim said, we are going to also mention kind of how it came about and how we continue going forward with it as well. Right. So many of you who are familiar with IHS are kind of familiar with things that we had done in the past, and we're still doing to this day because it's kind of like our bread and butter. So we run programs, we fund scholars, we get people to collaborate together, we have great conversations about the ideas. And you'll notice right away in ScholarsEdge, you'll see two of these functions that should seem very familiar if you're familiar with IHS. So let's go through them right now. So if you go into programs, what you'll notice with programs is that if you are invited to a program, it will show up here. You can also look at all your previous programs as well, right? Now, of course, I've done a lot with IHS, which is unsurprising, right? But it'll also tell me all the ones that when I was a faculty member, I had hosted, right? If I need an RSVP for one that's coming up, it will tell me that as well. It'll also give me my history in that regard. Now, what's nice about this is that these are all interactive. So what that means essentially is that when I click on these, as you'll see, I've accepted this program. If there were any material for the program, it would appear here, right? So if there's reading material, anything to that effect, it's one-stop shopping. But what also it does is that if I look through this, so this is something I had done with Mercatus recently, it will tell me everybody who's at that program or who was at that program. This allows me to connect with any of those people. Moreover, if I click on any of these names, it will take me to their profile page. It will tell me what programs we have shared together. And as we go down, it will tell me their publications, all their academic publications that they have, right? And if they have co-authors, it will show the co-authors as well. Adam, do you have something you'd like to add here with programs?
I think you covered the gist of it, Shane. The big goal here with programs and ScholarsEdge is really elevate the program experience. Like Shane mentioned, being able to go in and see who's going to attend that program prior really allows the ability to do some work prior to the program. See the papers they've written, maybe do some preparation of questions, and come to that program prepared.
He's stealing my thunder already. That's no worries. When you get to the papers, you're going to see this thing sing in just a second. So let's look at funding. Let's look at funding right now. So as many of you already know who've worked with IHS in the past, we, of course, fund scholars. We fund grad students. Normally when you'd have to do this, you'd have to basically go through our website to do it. Now this comes by way of the platform ScholarsEdge. And because it comes by way of the platform, there's a whole bunch of quality life improvements that come with that right out of the gate. One, if you're on the platform, we know who you are. So there's a lot of information you won't have to fill out because you're on the platform. We know you, right? On top of that, what you'll notice a lot is that you will be able now to fill out an application, stop, go away, come back at your leisure, and then just begin where you left off in that regard. Many times when I've been filling out funding in my past careers, I've had to put it in a separate Word file because of risk of losing it. You don't have to worry about that here. It will be here. On top of that, this is also going to be one-stop shopping for all your information about what funding we offer. You can drill down if you're a grad student or a faculty member. It's going to give you information for all different types of funding. And at the same time, provide contact information in case you have questions that you want to ask directly of us. Adam, do you want to come in on this?
I think you covered it.
All right, man. Now you saw me play a little bit here with Adam about stealing my thunder. It's definitely a play, but there's something cool that we have here in the papers function. And this is something that I can arguably say is Adam's baby. Adam's been putting a lot of work into this. So incredibly excited about it. So we, of course, work with scholars. We work with researchers. Pretty much most of the people we work with do something with research at some point. And it's incredibly important for us to make sure that that research gets out, right? That we can spread it. We can spread the word about all the great work that you're doing because we're very happy to be working with you. And so what we've done is we've actually collected information on all the papers of the people who are affiliated with our network, right? Now, there are many ways that you can access this, right? One of the ways you can do it is just with the simple recently published. This will show you some of the latest hits, the most recent ones that have happened, right? And as you'll notice, when you do present a paper here or find a paper here, it's going to give you the title right out of the gate, the journal it was in, the date, right? It's going to give you the authors associated with it. You'll see the abstract right here. And then you'll see these names. These are the authors, but you'll definitely see a name that is underlined at that particular moment. The underlined name is somebody who's in our network. Now, were I to click on it, what would happen would be something as follows. I go immediately to that person's profile page, right? Now here I can see what programs I've shared with that person. I can also see all of that person's other publications, which also allows me to see who else that person has co-authored with, right? Now, as Adam said before, this has a really cool sort of function when you tie it up with programs, right? So if I knew, for example, that I had gone to a program with Andrew before, Andrew, and he said he's going to publish a paper soon. He tells me what it's on. This will tell me that he's in fact published it. I could reach out to him, tell him congrats on the paper, and make it a stronger networking connection. Or say, for example, I went to a program with Andrew. I know Andrew quite well. I may want to get close to one of Andrew's co-authors, but I didn't know he's a co-author. So say, for example, I want to get close to him. Well, now I know that Andrew's co-authoring with that person. I can reach out to Andrew and be like, hey, I kind of want to know Keon. I really do. I think his work that he does is great. I want to know more about him. Can you make that introduction for me? Right? And so having this research in there is a great networking benefit right out of the gate, especially when it's coupled with the programs that we run here at IHS. Another thing I want to show you with papers here. And again, like I said, Adam's baby, this is actually pretty impressive here, is that we've actually overlaid it with a form of AI. So you can ask in just straight up natural language, any question you want, and it will pull papers from the network, right? So I could say, for example, I would like papers on telehealth, right? Explore. Here we go. Let's give it a second while it cooks. Boom. Let me explain what you're seeing now. It's going to give us the top 6 authors who've written on the topic, right? If I click on any of these authors, it will then drill down to the papers written by that author on this topic. If I press view profile, I go to that person's profile page. I can see what programs we've shared together, right? So if I want to write something on telehealth, for example, right? I may want to find out, hey, did I go to anything with Brigham Walker, right? Or did I go maybe with one of his co-authors? This allows me that sort of jumping off point, right? As you go down, you'll notice, again, you have the paper here with abstract, co-authors, the whole thing. If I click on that, it takes me directly to the link to the paper, right? But there's also a button here, Explore Similar. It will drill down to a topic in that regard. Now, what's really cool about this types of search, people search papers all the time, right? But using AI in this fashion allows us to search in a much more fine-grained sort of way. Let me explain. I'm not looking for exact words. It understands concepts. So even if the word's not mentioned, right, it will understand if it's implied in that regard. So there are things that regular search features miss that this type of a search, because we're overlaying it with AI, will not miss, right? And so whether you're looking for papers from people in the network on a topic that's dear to you just because you're interested, or whether or not you're, looking to make this connection to somebody who could, like, say, juice your research up a notch on this area, you can do that here as well. Adam, would you like to come in?
I would just really reiterate that this is a conceptual search, not a keyword one. So when you type in something like here you have telehealth, you're finding a lot of telehealth papers. Then you're also able to click that explore similar button. Say if Shane, you click that one there, you then find likely ones on specifically pandemics, COVID-19, that sort of topic. So you can really drill down deeper, and it looks at the intent behind the words, not just the words or the actual characters in the words. So it's not looking specifically at the keyword, but looking for the meaning behind the words. And to be included on this paper repository, if you're a scholar who's engaged with us, you've received funding, you've been to a program, your papers are all tracked here. You're able to go view the full text. You're able to look at the other works from each author, find similar ones. There's a lot of power that we're putting into this feature. Really excited to see the use cases. We think it's going to be useful for not only exploring the ideas of our scholarly network, but also finding and elevating the scholars themselves. So this is a exciting starting point for what's to come with paper exploration.
And as a former academic who's published things, another thing I want to say that's really nice here. So, like, unlike some of the other academia edu cough places, we're not going to constantly be reaching out asking if you publish paper X, Y, and Z. We actually have access directly to the data and know that you have, and we can put it in there. And we do our due diligence to make sure that you, in fact, are the ones that, in fact, have published it. So again, quality of life, and you don't necessarily have to tell us everything you've ever written. We will know. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump legislation for a second and go to undergraduates. We'll come back to legislation. I'm saving, how would you say, my favorite for last. So undergraduates, as you know, we do definitely work with undergraduates at IHS. We have, since pretty much the beginning. And what we have here is kind of twofold. We wanted to basically create a place where they could quickly find the core concepts within the classical liberal tradition, videos on them. We have, I believe, over 300 videos for them to choose. We are constantly adding to these videos, by the way. So as you go to any of these, whether they be core concepts or PPE, I'll press PPE, right? You'll see the videos right there. Again, these are by big people in the field. I don't think Mike Munger's name, I think you'll know who that is, right? Same thing with Jeffrey Brennan, same thing with Jeffrey Sanger McCord. These are big people. And we have them actually have content here that, are provided basically so grad students can understand the core concepts within the movement and the core concepts within things like economics, PPE, philosophy, these sorts of things. What I want to point out here as well, this is all linked together on the platform. So you'll notice the name there, it's blued out. If I click on it, surprise, surprise, it'll take me to Mike's page. And, I have, of course, been in Mike's presence. There it is at these different, IHS programs. And there's more of Mike's publications, right? So this is all of a whole. So if you had a student basically look at this, not only would the student get this from Mike, but student would have, possibly all this other things about Mike's publications right there at tap, right for him or her. Now, in addition to that, we also have a place for network opportunities. We are not the only Liberty game in town. There are many great organizations that we work with. We would say, I guess you could say we stand together in many ways like this. That we, of course, want to tell them about their events as well. We want to tell people about the internships that, an undergraduate could apply for as well. If there are jobs in any of these places, we want to tell them that as well. And fellowships, right? So this will be a place where undergraduates can come and look for any of these opportunities. In the future, right now we have about 30 of them up. In the future, we can, of course, have a portal where we can actually add more. That's an example of what it looks like. If I click on it, it'll go straight to the actual link for that particular page. Adam, what do you got for us here?
I think you covered it. We're definitely very excited to offer both learning opportunities and opportunities for jobs and fellowships, internships to students. So if you are aware, if you're a scholar and you know students that would find use in this, shoot us an email. We'd love to get them added into the platform.
Excellent. Now, before I go to legislation, you do see this here energy grid. This is coming in the future. Not going to say much about it, but this is one of the things that we have done and we continue to do. And I want to hype this up at this point. This has all been a collaborative effort with the people in our network. We have spent a lot of time talking to the people in our network, finding out where the stress points are about taking in data, structuring that data, and finding ways to turn that data so it can give you insights quickly, right? One of the examples here is the energy grid, where we actually worked a little bit here with Lynn Kiesling. Again, big name within this issue, within this particular area, where she was having a problem getting a little bit of the data here. And she, of course, didn't want to learn how to code in Python because she's a busy researcher, which makes absolute sense, right? And then even if she was able to scrape all these things out and put them in a spot, she didn't want to have to learn how to go through SQL, right, in order to extract the data in the neat ways. We were like, hey, we have the know-how to create tools to help you. We did with Energy Grid Radar. That's coming. It's right around the corner, right? But what I want to talk to you right now is the legislation feature, right? This is something, again, we've been on this now for well over a year, right? We've been working on this. And very similar to Energy Grid Radar, it starts with a conversation, right? We have a conversation with some close-in partners, and we're like, how can we help you? Where are you finding that you're having trouble? And we have a lot of people in the network very much interested in public policy issues, right? But there's a cost to keeping up with public policy issues. And that cost is there's a glut of text, billions upon billions of text, and it's hard to go through it and to search for it in a reliable way in order to make sure that you have the information when you need it. And we found this again and again. And many people, the way that they would try to deal with it was that they would, either throw a whole bunch of money at a program that wasn't built with their needs in mind. We're scholars building things for scholars. They would pay other things that were building it for other groups completely. And so it wouldn't quite fit their needs, right? Not to mention there was a learning curve, even if they were able to afford that program. On top of that, you would find people who they would just hire the people, right? They'd have a room of people, which is expensive, to go through and actually look through all these texts to try to help them out. Or there was another where they just brute force it. You would have a lot of people, basically working another full-time job in order to digest this information in a way that they could then use it for their research. Well, when we had these early conversations, it occurred to us pretty quickly that we had the know-how on the team that we could leverage AI and our tools scraping the internet in such a way that we could make searching these texts so much easier. And that's what I want to show you here. I want to show you how this is. But at the same time, as I show you this is just one version of us doing the same thing. That same thing is, you tell us there's this issue you haven't hurdle. We then are able to leverage our technological tools to help you. So I want you to view this not as, hey, we did this thing and that's all that we're doing. It's a continued thing where we're like, reach out to us. We may be able to build something like this for you for your particular problem, right? So that's a continual open invitation. So let's go through it. Right? So as we go here, you're going to see that I've created a number of searches, but I want to show you first how to create a search, right? So if I go into create a new search, I have two available to me. I have similarity search and I have concept search. If I press similarity search, right away it asks, what do you want to name the search? It then asks me, how sensitive do I want the search to be, right? And then it's going to ask for me, do I have text to compare? So if I'm doing a similarity search and I give it text, what I could give it would be like, say, a piece of a bill or a piece of regulation or, some chunk of text, whatever it may be. And what it's going to do is it's going to look for similar text on whatever data set I give it. And the more similar, the higher up it'll be in my search results. Now below that, we have the user prompt. This is where you tell the AI exactly what you're interested in, right? So you say, I'm interested in laws and regulations that do X, Y, and Z, but not Q, right? And then you save the search, and this is what you'll be using against the various data sets that we have. Now that's how you do a similarity search. I'm going to show you how to do a concept search. So here in concept search, again, you name it. Again, you adjust the sensitivity, right? I'm going to skip over the assistant just for a second. I'll come back to it though. Here you put in concepts. Now, to do a concept search, you need at least 5 concepts. You can go up as high as you want, right? I have concepts like into the 30s on some searches easily. You know, whatever you feel will actually get the results you want. It'll require some experimentation on your part. But what I want you to notice here, again, notice how I said concept search. Again, very similar to the papers. This is not about a keyword, it's about a concept. And we can do that with AI. So here it says Chief Information Officer. So it's not looking just for every instance where the words Chief Information Officer appear in text. It understands when that is implied, though not overtly stated. So in that regard, it's able to pick up much more, right? Now, as you go through it, I can include or I can exclude whatever I want. I can add, like I said, as many as I want, right? And then when you get down here, very similar to similarity search, you have to give it a prompt. This is where you tell the AI, this is what I'm interested in, right? So I'm interested in laws that do X, Y, Z, but not Q, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, you save your search. Now, remember, I skipped the concept assistant. Let me go back to it. And this, again, just highlights how these tools are built. It's always iteration with our partners, right? So when we worked with our partners, we kind of took it for granted that they would just have the concepts at the ready, that when they saw blank spaces at this, they'd be able to fill it up and just hit the ground running. Well, it turns out it's actually more complicated than that, that when you see these blank boxes, sometimes you're like a deer in headlights and you're like, well, I don't know where to start, right? So we wanted to use the AI to kind of help jumpstart a concept search. And that's what the concept assistant here is. So let me give you an example of something. Here is a piece of legislation. It's actually a bill, a law, essentially, that was written by, I think it's IJ, Institute for Justice, Universal Recognition of Occupational License. That's a model bill. They want to see if they can get this passed. Notice, not long. It's only about 4 pages, right? Now, what I'm going to do with the concept assistant is I'm going to mine this text for the relevant concepts. I'm going to have AI, in a sense, reverse engineer it and pick it apart to find the concepts that are appropriate to what I'm looking for. So I'll ask it to attach a file, which is what it's doing. Boop. I will go to the right thing. And I'm going to say it's the IJ one. Now, the important thing here is that it is going to be zipped. And then I got to ask the question. So here I'm interested in laws that require a state to recognize the occupational licensing provided by other states. Now I press upload. It tells me to be patient. Just wait a second. Now it's extracting the concepts. This is what it's given us, right? Occupational licensing, state recognition, interstate agreements, licensing reciprocity, professional qualifications, regulatory compliance, state boards, credential evaluation, and we can go on. Now, you don't have to keep any of these, right? So if you look at some of these and you're like, you know, I don't know, maybe I don't like state boards, I can remove that. Go ahead, right? Remove anything that you don't find appropriate. You can also add anything that you think it's missing. The whole goal of that concept assistant is to allow you to create concept searches faster, right? So experiment with it, see what kind of concepts you can pull out of it in order to start your search. Now, after you've created searches, whether they be concept or similarity, let me show you what you do with them. Yes, I'm going to leave. There we are. Remember I told you before, I've created a number of searches. I tend to like concept searches more than similarity searches. Just depends on what I have at the ready in that sense. I've created a number of them. You'll see here on the left, it'll tell you if they're concept or similarity. As you go across, you see the name that I've given them. You see this box here where it says subscribed. If you click on the box, what that means is that at every roughly 8:02 a.m., you will receive an email where it's taken that search and run it through bills at both the state and federal level, right? And if it finds anything that matches that search criteria that you have, again, whether it be a concept search or a similarity search, it will put that in that email. And as you go through it, you'll see like I had one on taxation. It will tell me what exactly that bill is. It will tell me what jurisdiction. Here it was in Minnesota, my home state. It will then tell me what the current action is on that particular bill. It gives me a summary of that bill as well. It tells me what AI concepts are associated with that bill, which again, I could use in future searches, right? And it allows me to link directly to it. Now, keep in mind that depending on the search, and how big the search is, I could pull like 30 pages of results depending on it. That could be a lot of information for someone. So this is one way to look at bills and keep track of them, but it is not the most laser focused one. And I'll show you that in a second, right? We have a much more focused way of tracking bills. But this is just a nice passive way to have this come through. Let me go back. That's just that checkbox there. You have the 3 dots. I can edit any of my searches. If I need to delete it, Thanos snap it away, I can totally do that as well. All right. But here's where the magic happens. Let's run search. When I go into run search, what I want you to notice is as we go down, we have 2 big sets here. We have state and we have federal. When you go into state, we have data sets for all laws in every state and the District of Columbia. We have data sets for all regulation in all states and the District of Columbia. We also have it for bills in all states, ready to go. Now, as we go down, we also have this at the federal level, right? US code, right? All regulations, federal bills, and committee testimony, right? If the committee testimony is down in any written form whatsoever, we can pull and search off of that, right? And then as well, you can use multiples at a time. So I can do multiple states, say, for example, and check multiple data sets. Keep in mind, though, as I add the multiples, it'll slow it down a little because that's a whole nother data set to go through. I mean, these are billions of pages of text. I want to show you what the results look like, right? Just so you can get a taste of this. So here's an example. I tend to play a lot here with telehealth. I looked here at federal bills, right? Now, federal bills, this was a concept search with telehealth where I'm very much interested in reciprocity agreements between states that allow for telehealth across state lines, right? It was a concept search. Now, the way that this works is that first it'll give me a summary of what it found, which is there. It will then give me a percent match. Now, for concept search and similarity search, this will mean different things. So with the concept search, the percent match means that's the percent of concepts it found that I'd asked about, right? So here it's got 6.5% of all my concepts that it found in this particular piece. If it's a similarity search, it's the percent match. How percent similar is this piece of text that I gave it to what it found, right? Now, next to it, notice it has a matches prompt column. In the matches prompt column, remember, you have to ask it a question, or you have to basically tell it what you're interested in. Now, in the matches prompt, it's going to tell you if it in fact addresses what you said. If it addresses what you said, it will say true. If it doesn't, and I believe there's a false one down here, it will say false, right? Now, below it, it gives you its reasoning. It tells you why it thinks it's relevant to your search, right? There, it'll also tell you why it's irrelevant if it's false. Now, this column, with bills, it's going to tell you what the latest activity is on the bill, just by default, right? It'll give you the source, right? If you wanted to look it up on your own, or you could literally just view the source by clicking that button right there, right? State searches, I've done state searches as well. There's Michigan, for example. Again, on telehealth, very similar columns all the way down in that regard. But what I want to show you now is how to do bill tracking in a more laser-focused sort of way, right? So remember, when you would get this email and say it was looking for, again, every 802, what matches your search criteria if you subscribe to something, that can be long. And that's like trying to drink, water from a fire hydrant sometimes, because there's just a lot of information that could be coming through that. So we need something that's a little bit more laser focused. So if it's a particular piece of legislation that's got your eye, that we can then show you what that is and allow you to keep bids on it. This is where we have the bill tracking. Now, a bill tracking, notice I can add projects. These are like folders, if you will. And in these particular folders, I can put specific bills that it will allow me to track, right? So look at here. You'll notice there we have a little mail function in that regard. If I click on that, what happens then is if there are bills that I attach in there, it will send me an email whenever there's movement with the bill. And again, roughly around 8:02, 8:01 a.m., I get this separate piece where it's like, nope, we got an update here signed by the governor, right? And it will tell me. It again gives me the link directly to it, tells me the jurisdiction, gives me a summary of the bill, right? Now, the way that you get bills into these is that when you're looking at the bill data, right, you'll notice that there's this box over here. When I click on the box, 'cause this is true, and this is for the telehealth one, I think I'll put it in my telehealth folder. I can either put this into a generic watch folder, right? Or I can add it to a specific folder that I have. And in this case, I'm going to add it to telehealth, right? Boop, submit. Let it think. There we are. Now, I could wait, right, to see if there are any updates in my email. We also have dashboard functionality, right? So with the dashboard, all the bills that I've added to these appear here on this dashboard. And as you go through it, again, tells you the title, the bill ID, the jurisdiction. I can immediately go to the source of the bill, directly to the web page. It will show me that. It will then show me its latest activity. Unfortunately, this one died, right? If I want to see its history, I press show all. And I can see exactly all the movement that it has made into its unfortunate demise, right? Now, since this one died, if I want to, I can remove any of these as well. So I may say, well, since it's dead, I may click on that and ask to remove it if I want to do so, right? But I can do this now with any of the things I find here. And so I can then basically keep tabs on any of this stuff, right? Whether it be through my email or whether it be through, say, this particular dashboard. And I can make as many dashboards as I want in that regard. Adam, do you have something that you'd like to add here?
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to really stress the magnitude of the documents that we've collected here. Like Jim put in the chat, this is billions of records that we've collected from public sources. That's state, federal, working towards county and more. And digging through legislative documents manually is very, very grueling work. This is a full-time job for a data analyst for many organizations. And this really democratizes this information for our scholar audience as well as our network organizations. This truly levels the playing field. the alternatives to this very, very expensive, and we're seeing very, very high degrees of accuracy with these searches. With some of our partner organizations, we're seeing this has enabled them to comment on double the amount of legislation over the last legislative period, which we're very extremely excited about. So give it a try, refine your search. Let us know if there's any data sets that you would find interesting to be able to search across. We really want to build this in partnership with our network. So please reach out. Excited to see your use cases.
Yeah, and that's an important thing to stress. This is one all iterative, right? So this isn't the first version of us doing this with public policy work. We've had many versions of this, and it's gotten better each time because we work close to the people who are using it, right? So as you use it, if you have questions, suggestions, things you would like to change or think it would make it better, our door is open and we're listening. We're absolutely listening because we want this to sing for you. Likewise, if you have ideas on other tools, right? We are constantly in there cooking, making more tools in order to make basically your workflows smoother, quicker, and more efficient. Jim, would you like to come in? Anything you'd like to add?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Well, why don't we, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, Adam, we can go to questions.
Questions sound good?
All right.
Great. So Jim was answering some of them live, but I think some of the ones that he answered live are worth discussing because multiple people were wondering about them, and I think there would be questions that other people have. So there's a lot of questions about the papers and how they get into ScholarsEdge. So how do the papers get into our database? Are you using Google Scholar or a different program? Are they able to organize their own papers? Can they update the version if it's a SSRN working paper and they have a published version? What are some other things that we could do with other people's papers in the platform?
Sure, I can field that. So, like Jim put in the Q&A response, we're accumulating papers from a variety of sources. At this moment, it's largely paper abstracts, DOIs, author names, citations, and we're linking out the full text. We are looking at ways of accumulating full text papers for use within the platform. However, we're actively working with Dimension, Semantic Scholar, a bunch of different vendors that aggregate academic paper repositories.
So a number of things that we've used as well. I mean, we've used, I think Dimensions is one of the first that we had done, which is by Digital Science, maybe the company. We use the API for that, which is primarily uses DOI in that regard. And I believe both SSRN and your final publication will both have often unique DOIs. So there's a good chance that we captured both at this moment, but we are looking at additional data sources as well. But my experience is, and Adam, feel free to push back, right, is that things like Dimensions and whatnot are a little bit more reliable than say something like Google Scholar. Google Scholar can be comprehensive, but it's going to pick up a lot of things that are probably not papers.
Yep. And we are seeing some small issues here and there with data integrity from some of these sources, but we're actively working with these organizations and fixing that data up. So if you go onto your profile or go to somebody else's profile, see papers that are missing or see a name spelled wrong, please reach out to us and we can get that corrected and work with these our partners to fix this up.
And to build on the Google Scholar currently thinks my age index is 128, which it is not because there's a STEM researcher with the same name as me. So it runs into problems like that. So there were different questions about how the legislative search works. So for the conceptual assistant, can you just upload laws and legislation? Or could I upload my academic paper and it'll tell me legislative concepts that might be related or legislation that might be related to my paper? And then like when you're doing the concept searches, if I put more concepts in, is that narrowing down the results or is it opening it up to include more in it?
So in the piece with legislation in the concept search, if you add in, say, 30 different concepts. We're going to match using the AI your concepts to the concepts that we've extracted from these documents. So let's say you have 10 concepts, three of them match a piece of legislation. That's a 30% match. You also are able to do exclude. So this would, after you put in a concept, you have that drop down for include, exclude. You can click exclude to ensure that that concept would not be relevant for the paper or would you're looking or sorry for legislation. So if you want to dial it in that way, you can. But it's purely looking at how many concepts match, giving that percentage, and you're also able to exclude certain concepts. In regards to drawing parallels between paper data and legislation data, AI is an incredible tool at making sense in the meaning of words. And so we're looking at a lot of different avenues for how to continue to tie the entire platform together. Like Shane showed with user profiles, how you can access it from a variety of sources. We're actively looking at ways to draw papers into legislation, legislation into papers, into profiles. There's a lot of ideas floating around. If you have any specifics of a workflow that would be really impactful for your work, we would love to hear about it and work with you to make it happen.
Jim?
So a really interesting question just popped up from an anonymous attendee that I want to answer directly. So the question is, will you be rolling out more support for scholars that have insights differently than what people are seeing right now? And so in several questions, I provided a link several times to ScholarsEdge at thehs.org. And I encourage you all to let us know you want to be part of this community. And we would give you access to beta features as they come up for testing to help us test, to provide feedback on, because in the upcoming releases, the answer to this question is yes. There's actually an AI agent coming that would be based on alignment of intention. And so you would say, show me everything on public policy relating to AI, and it would search across all databases. So what you're seeing here is not the full extent of already what's in the community. So in our sandbox environment, which we call Polynexus, there are other tools that would seek out the president's budget and help you analyze it. There are tools that would look for scholarly testimony. So you could, if you were at a center, you could say, show me who is speaking where and what have they done in the last year and what state. And to get more of the insights that don't have this type of strict pipeline, we have an agent that's coming that would tie those together to create that meaningful context this question is asking for. So to start like being actively involved in the community, I would recommend joining the community that we're setting up for that, so that we can get that type of deeper insight to add to this.
And also to build on Jim for things outside of the platform that you could use. So as director of coalitions, and I'm putting my email address into the chat there. Part of my role is helping organizations that are answering important conversations and questions in the world get access to the research that can inform what good policy maybe would look like or what good outcomes look like. So if you know your paper is relevant to something and you don't know who to reach out to, there's a good chance we have a connection there we can make for you. So feel free to email me at that email address and say, hey, I think this is relevant to this conversation going on over here, but I don't know who to talk to, and we'll make that happen. And then, Jim, given you vamped a little bit on some things that are coming down the line, anything else that's in the sandbox that people can look forward to seeing in the future?
I I would say that when we look at AI, you've already seen one, which is energy. So the energy grid is a democratization of what's coming for energy, but its focus now is on how is AI impacting our energy grid, where states where data centers are. So you can look at things like contracts, what the data center pays. You can identify pay rates, look at things like cronyism, write about that type of stuff. You can also see if a contractor's in violation, but those come from conversations with Gene's team and then Gene's team with us. And so if those are ways that the barriers to your research can be torn down as a scholar in this network, it's important to join this community and mention those kinds of things. The most important thing is these are coming with natural language and the AI agent. So a lot of the data seems specific to a pipeline like the president's budget, which when you join the community, you can see it. It allows you an AI analytics tool to go all the way back to 1938 and manage and look and see where things are hidden. Those come from conversations with people that say, I want this type of legislation or I want to create this type of pipeline. And that comes from the conversation that Gene just mentioned. And so if you make a request to Scholar's Edge that says, I want to join that community and start testing out the other tools, you can see that. You can see those tools that are coming, but you don't know necessarily what you're missing until you see what your options are. And so by joining the community now, it actually gives you a sense of what's possible versus I got to think of something or a way to be efficient because we're dealing with scholars every single day and thinking with them what do they need to hit the market faster. So a lot of tools that could be helpful are already being built in the sandbox environment that you can see how it could change the way you think about the way you go about being a scholar in that way. So there's a lot in there that I could talk about for the next hour, but I think what's more important is to focus on joining the community and help us keep building these tools for truth and how this can help you be the most efficient scholar you can be. One other question though, people keep asking how to upload a paper. So you can just email if you have a paper that you don't see that you think fits this use case, just email it to scholarsedge@ihs.org and Adam will help get you connected with the research library.
And I really want to emphasize sending the crazy ideas and think through things like my graduate student spends a lot of time pulling X, Y, and Z for me, and I can't even get all of the data that I need because I only have him or her for a certain amount of time. Or it would be really great if I could analyze this thing in this specific way, but I don't have the tools to do that. Because Jim was serious when he says, like, I will bring something to him. And my assumption has always been the answer is going to be no, because I'm bringing him something that seems crazy and big. And he says, well, let's try. And most of them have been possible, which has been really surprising to me. And some of them are things that are getting built out now that probably by the next time we have a demo, they will be part of what you see. So I really, really encourage you to engage with them, talk with them. If you see how a tool can be developed in a new way that they might not have considered. We've had some professors come back to us and say, did you know this data could also be used for X, Y, and Z? It's not that big of a lift sometimes to tweak it so you could display it in a different way. And if that makes all the difference in researchers being able to, approach really important questions, then we want to focus on that. So we're going to close now. I just want to double check with Jim and Shane and Adam to see if they want to say anything before we end, so I'm not ending too soon.
I would add one piece just because we have two open questions. One of them is around, if I'm understanding this correctly, pipelines for scholars to have public policy engagement. This is a big focus or a big kind of Scholar's Edge allows a leveling of the playing field. So if you are a scholar that doesn't currently have a pipeline towards having real world policy change, our goal with this legislative tracking and searching tool is to truly democratize access to this information and allow for people to truly be a part of of our democratic process. So that's a major goal here. We'd love to help you accomplish what you would like to accomplish with your work.
Yeah, let me piggyback on that just a second, because I think that's a really important insight. We often are asked, as we're constructing this tool, as we are with constructing all tools, what do you think like the market would be for scholars, to do this particular thing? And we always are surprised, because usually, we'll think about it, we're building this thing for one particular individual, and it turns out there's a pretty wide market for it, and a lot of people want it. Right. Well, one of the things that we had considered, and was shocking to us, was that there are a lot of people who want to do policy, but they realize the high cost associated with basically being literate on what's out there and having timely and reliable information. And so when we're often asked, hey, what's the market for this? Like, one, it's already pretty big, but two, it's probably much larger, because a lot of people now, by democratizing this information as we are, will have access to something that they couldn't have had access before unless they had a lot of resources, right? And so what you'll find with a lot of these things, especially the legislation and public policy stuff, is that this will open door for people who might not have considered the policy applications of their work, right? Because they realize that that would be opening up a can of worms as far as cost and labor goes. Well, we've managed to, how would you say, slay those can of worms for you.
The only other thing I would add is thank you all for coming. I hope you see the extent to which this helps us flourish as humans and drives the mission of the liberty movement forward. I focus on asking you guys to join the community with us and help us use our expertise to enhance your guys' work to get things out in real time. The last open question is actually yes, podcasts and videos and YouTube videos. We are working on a way to use AI to add to the reference library. So that is coming in the next couple releases as well.
Thank you, everybody, for attending and spending the hour with us, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the platform.